welcome, and thank you for coming to Durango Diaries. Sponsored by Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad Brew Train tonight, and we thank them for making this possible. Quick rundown on tonight. We're going to give each of these guys 10 minutes to talk about craft brewing. They all come from unique perspectives on that. Tony Simmons, he's owner and head funmaker of Pagosa Brewing and Grill. He graduated at the top of his class from Siebel Brewing Institute in Chicago and the World Brewing Academy in Munich, Germany. He has judged the Great American Beer Festival since 2001 and is currently a judge captain. Pagosa Brewing, which celebrated its 11th year anniversary last fall, has 97 beer awards.
I brought a couple of samples here of gold medal winning beers. I got our Peachy Peach, and then we have our Poor Richard's Ale, which was it was deemed the most authentic colonial beer in the country and was the national recipe for Benjamin Franklin's 300th birthday. So it's a brown ale with a whisper of molasses to it. So I've been very fortunate to be selected as one of the judges for the Great American Beer Festival and also the sister organization, the World Beer Cup. The Great American Beer Festival does all of the American beers, and the World Beer Cup obviously does all of the world beers. At the Great American Beer Festival, I have the honor of judging some of the best beers in the country and in the world. And it's really quite amazing. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of experience to do that. I've been doing it for 17 years. I was fortunate enough to win scholarships to professional brewing school and knew a lot of people in the industry that provided references that allowed me to get in on that. And after about maybe 10 years, I evolved to being a judge captain. So I judge the beers and then allow the table to pull together their concepts of what these beers should be judged as. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But in terms of the Great American Beer Festival, I want to run this video just to give you the idea of how we organize and judge something like 7,000 beers in the period of like 4 days. So if we could start that video, and it's all in a fast motion with a little bit of music, hopefully there's some sound to go with it here, and it will give you the sensation of what we're talking about. In a nutshell, the Brewers Association, of which Dave and I belong to, puts this event on, and it's really quite amazing in terms of what we're able to accomplish. We have very specific criteria for beers, and you can see here's the part of Denver. And here are all of the stewards. The stewards are the people who assemble the beers and organize the beers for our judges. And you can see all the cases. These are the beers that Dave and I have sent in, and it's all blind tasting, so the stewards know what the beers are, but the judges don't. They don't know that it's my beer versus Bill Carver's beer versus Dave's beer. And coincidentally, there's me with the hat. Just happened to work out that way that year. And so we sit at all these various tables, and we have all these samples of beer, and we go through them and write down our notes. And the stewards, in the meantime, are scrambling, and they're sometimes moving almost this fast, to get these beers to our table in a timely manner. As the very gracious volunteers here brought the beers to you in a timely manner, they do the same thing, except with 7,000 beers. So take a look at this for a moment. Oh, they're finishing up with Denver here. I was looking at you and not seeing the end of it. But we do this at the Convention Center for the Great American Beer Festival. We have something like 60,000 attendees over a 4-day period. Thank you very much. So to give you a bit more detail, we have very specific criteria for judging beers. Each beer is, I would say, in its own separate strike zone. If we're talking about IPAs, like I happen to be drinking Dave's Modus Operandi, it's a pale IPA versus a amber IPA, or now we have black IPAs, and each one of those has its own specific strike zone and description of how these beers are judged. And we judge the beers in terms of their aroma, their color, their carbonation, and certainly their flavor. And by evaluating these beers, and it's pretty intense because there's so many beers. The first rounds, there's a lot of beers, and you have to work very quickly and very efficiently to find the beers that stand out among this threshold of maybe 16 beers per flight. And they would be variations of modus operandi. So you have 16 of these beers in small cups, thank goodness, in small cups, and you move those beers on to the next round, and then you have a final round, and then sometimes even a tiebreaker round to find the beers that are the best in the nation. And in some cases, we're going out to Nashville in a couple of weeks, and the best beers in the world, and that's where entrants from all over the world also compete. And it's really challenging to put our beers up against the beers coming out of Germany. You brew a German-style beer, and you're competing head-to-head with the people from Germany. So that's really quite a unique competition, and that only happens once every 2 years. The Great American Beer Festival, as I mentioned, happens every year. It's always in Denver. I encourage you all to come and visit if you have an opportunity to, because it's quite amazing to go on the festival floor and try all the beers, and people have brought the beers that they've put their heart and soul into, the labor of love on a professional level, for you to sample. And then behind the scenes, we're all doing the fast motion judging and stewarding. So it's really been quite an honor to do this, and it's really, I think, helped elevate craft beer in our nation because of these kind of competitions where people really have to step up and not just brew anything out of their back pocket, but create specific beers to specific style criteria. So in the scheme of things, it's a real treat to be able to tell you about this, because I don't get a lot of opportunity. In fact, not a lot of judges do get the opportunity to share what goes on. But it's really amazing to be able to judge these beers, and that's why I've volunteered my time to do it over the last 17 years. So thank you very much.